I have been leaning really heavily on my own practices so that I can not use that internal wigginess and that internal momentum to further make things worse for me. I firmly believe that pain is inevitable in our lives. Pain is a part of being human, but that suffering is really optional. And I don't know about you guys, but for me personally, the stuff that I do inside when I'm feeling pain, like the self-talk and lack of self-care, like it creates suffering rather than just feeling the pain of it. And if you haven't heard me talk about this before, um, well, I'll now, like, maybe I should wait for a little bit. No, I'll just tell you it now. So, what I want to tell you is that the difference between pain and suffering is that pain is inevitable, but suffering really is optional. And the way that I like to think about this, there's a concept called the two arrow concept. And that what happens is when we feel pain, that's like one arrow being shot into our heart and it causes actual pain. But most of us don't stop there. We don't stop with just feeling the pain. What most of us do is we shoot a second arrow. And this is the second arrow of suffering. And this arrow also goes straight to our heart and it looks and is shot by this. It's the self talk. It's the I feel bad, therefore I'm a bad person. I feel bad, right? That's the first arrows. I feel bad, therefore I did something wrong. I feel bad, therefore I'm not going to take care of myself. I feel bad, therefore I'm going to be mean to myself and deprive myself of things and punish myself. It's the self punishment, and that trickles out into all of our other relationships, of course, not just to ourselves, but to our kids, to our partners, to our coworkers. Anything that we're doing to ourselves is going to be trickling outward. So that's the second arrow that's being shot. First, there's just the infliction of the wound or the pain, and then there's the suffering and all the things that we do to create that suffering. And the more that we can get aware of when we shoot that second arrow, for me, it's always around, things like beating myself up. That was like, my thing for much of my life. I felt bad and I would beat myself up for feeling bad. So it's like I had the feeling bad, and then on top of it, I had that double whammy of, just being mean to myself and beating myself up. And if you can relate to that, you're not alone. Um, but that's the second arrow. So anytime that there's that beating yourself up awareness, you know that you've shot the second arrow. And the thing to do is to more and more, first of all, always create awareness, because that's always going to be the first step. More and more realize when you're shooting that second arrow and just be in the pain of that first arrow being shot. It's just painful. And the reason why we do it is because when we're feeling pain, most of us were not taught how to absorb pain, how to feel pain, and how to work through it. And so our instinct is to run away from it in some way or another. And even though beating ourselves up for feeling bad, treating ourselves badly when we're feeling bad, even those feel like it's worse. It's actually a place worse than the original pain. It's actually a place to hide, because then you're not dealing with the actual pain. You're dealing with the second arrow. So it's this convenient, not very functional place to hide, but it comes across as if we're actually dealing with the pain because we're in even more pain, but it's not. The second arrow is that suffering, and that does become a place to hide from actually feeling the impact of the initial hurt and what to do to move through that hurt. And the what to do is going to be different depending on what the hurt is, who caused the pain, when did it happen? Is it revisited from the past, or is it going to be something that just happened recently? Did it trigger something from the past? But dealing with that actual pain in a parenting example would be, if your child is yelling at you and it's feeling bad, we're so used to then shooting that second arrow into ourselves and saying, our kid is bad, or I'm a bad parent, or of course this went, sideways, and I'm just so bad at this and I can't do this anymore, right? That's like the mental trip, but that's the second arrow. The first arrow is just, oh, my child is yelling at me. This is really painful. This actually hurts. Okay, now what do I want to do about that? Sitting in that pain for even just a moment can help you chart a different course rather than turning it inward, making it all about you, and not actually dealing with the fact that your child's yelling at you, right? And how much that hurts. Then from that place, you can set boundaries. You can talk to them calmly. You can talk to yourself calmly, right? And see what comes up for you. But once that second arrow is shot and I'm a bad parent, they're a bad kid, we've taken the focus off of what actually is going on and what is actually the consequence, the natural consequence of our child yelling at us is it feels bad. That's what it is. Most of us were not raised with effective ways of how to manage pain, emotional pain. In fact, we were talked out of it, we were shamed out of it, we were frightened out of it, we were punished out of it. We're too sensitive, all these things, right? And years and years of training and telling ourselves that we don't know how to deal with pain leads us to shoot that second arrow. That's why we do it. So the answer is to be aware of when you're shooting that second arrow. Try to stay present with just the impact of that first arrow of pain. Don't cause yourself unnecessary suffering. And then learn how to walk through that pain so you can actually get to the other side of it and do some real healing rather than hide in that place of feeling worse, but not actually addressing the problem. So I hope that helps.